Engaged Buddhism is the kind of Buddhism that responds to anything that happens in the here and the now. What happened in the here and the now is
I got to know my 5-year-old child that I had suppressed for so long. And once I found the practice, I just thought, gosh, I wish I had known this as a 5-year-old child. If I had known this in high school, how I would have relieved so much of my suffering.
So when Thich talks about interbeing, I say yeah, he says if you're okay, if you're peaceful, you bring peace to others. And I can see now clearly in my family that they're much better just because I'm better.
In the beginning, when I first began to tell stories, I was terrified. People are terrified when they have to stand in front of other people. I wanted to tell the story, but I was terrified to be in front of other people because I thought they might see me, which is the funniest thing of all. But I think that's what we're so scared of when we tell stories or when we stand in front of other people.
In all the monasteries, including Plum Village Monastery and Blue Cliff Monastery and Deer Park Monastery, we have 1 day a week where we don't drive our cars at all, just in emergencies if someone has to go to the hospital. And we call this a car-free day, and this has also become quite a movement. People can also now pledge their car-free days on a website, and many people have already pledged. 50, 60,000 so far.
We go out into those fields in spring and try to mark the nests so that farmers can move around them when they fertilize and mow. The numbers of the birds decline still, and their survival depends on international protection agreements.
A neoclassical economist, thinks the world is made up of different separate objects. And that's what's wrong. That's why things don't work. Because even the tree I'm next to, if an economist just sees this as a commodity, something you can buy and sell, if it has no worth to the person on the street, to the businessman on the street, then it doesn't matter if it dies. It doesn't matter if the birds die. It just doesn't matter in their eyes.
So it's a challenge to apply the teachings of mindfulness, interbeing, compassion, loving kindness into our work as lawyers.
When you speak about the path of well-being, you should include, first of all, the practice that can reduce the tension, the stress, the heaviness. And this is our daily practice. If parents and teachers practice, and then they will be able to help their children practice.
What are we thinking? What are we feeling? What are we noticing? And we just put it down on paper. So they were becoming more conscious of what was going on in their minds, which I think is part of education, is to become more self-aware.
And I'm a midwife from South Africa, and I use Buddhist meditation techniques and mindful awareness with pregnant women and their partners in order to help their babies have less traumatic birth experiences. Because the medical model of birth in South Africa, certainly, and I think in a lot of the Western countries, is very traumatic for babies.
The director of the program knew of Thai and was welcomed me because nobody on their staff really wanted to take on trying to teach mindfulness to veterans.
And she said that practicing in her own mother tongue, listening to her own mother tongue, sitting with her sisters from the same nationality, same language, in the same neighborhood, it felt wonderful, and she felt that something big has happened, something very important, and they all felt at home, very much at home.
And you think that meditation or Buddhism is something about some mystical reality, or you do meditation and you get in touch with something else, or there's some other plane of existence that you have to understand, or I don't know.
And this befriending of the self was something which I started to teach my clients more and more as I learned more and more about it myself. I seem to be at times just one page ahead of them, but they were turning to me for support, and I kept referring to that need to have mercy, to be kind, to not throw yourself into the pit of pain.
Opening up the table and inviting them to come to the table to talk to us changed the temper and the tone of that relationship between the insurance company and the city.
Condition of this designer, of the engineer named Ernie Meadows, is to give it out free to the recipient.
But now, as we practice mindfulness, we have to identify the kind of ill being that is really there in us and around us. And we know that, first of all, there is a tension in our body.
And I teach them, and I do the breathing exercise with them 5 or 10 times in one series. Afterward, I ask them, did you find that your eyes are now sharper? I said, yeah, that's true. My eyes are sharper than before. My vision are sharper.
The object of your attention is your in-breath. And if you focus all your attention on your in-breath, and then you can release the past, you can release the future, you can release all projects. It's a very wonderful, not so difficult. Just focus your attention on your in-breath. And that is something pleasant to do also. Breathing in, I enjoy my in-breath. And breathing out, I enjoy my out-breath.
The difference in advice I get from people who practice and my friends who don't. So my friends who don't often kind of encourage me to, go with the flow. Why not? Like, you have nothing to lose, you're young.
When we walk together, we should not go too slowly. When we breathe in, we may like to make 2 steps or 3. We walk normally. And when you breathe in, you may say, every step. And when you breathe out, you may say, is life. Every step is life. And you touch life.
And I work as a consultant to the emergency room physicians as to whether or not somebody needs to be hospitalized or not.
Each week the Sangha sits together, practices walking meditation, deep listening, and loving speech during Dharma discussions. I believe that meeting weekly in the same place at the same time, year after year, supports people in their practice of mindfulness.
We are here. To be engaged is to remember our promise that we made many lifetimes ago. The promise not to leave anyone behind.